Hello everyone and welcome back to the Dealerchat podcast today with a very distracted James Harding because he has a transporter in his yard at Shop's Garage collecting some cars. Myself, Joe Betty of Barrow Motors. We would normally have David Gott of the Lovely Car Company, but it's been a bit of a confusion because we did a special podcast this week live from the lanes of G3 that he thought he was off the hook for this Thursday. It's almost like we don't pay him to do this. It's ridiculous. We don't. So yeah, he's busy with other things. So I don't think we're probably going to see him this morning, but that's okay because we have our special guest, Jaime Turner of Tailored Vehicle Solutions. And it's probably best that it's just the three of us because James probably wants a lot of time with Jamie. He's got a bone to pick with him, I think. As you may have seen,
there's a massive elephant in the room for once. It isn't just me.
Before we get into talking to Jamie and his business, Tailored Vehicle Solutions, we have got a score to settle, so let's have it.
Firstly, I will apologise. As Joe says, I've got a valeter outside, I've got Petey, and I've got a transporter, and they're trying to move 100 cars. So apologies to the viewers and to you, Jamie, if I do have to nip off camera for a moment or two. Yeah, those who are watching my channel will know that I had recently got an Audi A5, and it turned out it was Cat N, and Jamie sold it to me and stiffed me right over on it.
Intentionally, just to get on the podcast.
Yeah, he knew he was coming on the podcast. He thought, just for dramatic effect, the best thing to do beforehand was stiff chops with a motor. Now, as per the video, we were both a bit slack. I didn't check it, HPI check it, and I know Jamie, you just took the guy on his word as well, didn't you? And in fairness to Jamie, he said, "Look, I'll just buy it straight back again." But luckily for me, my painter had fell in love with it in between. And so we did him a deal, and it's, no harm, no foul. It's gone out the door. But it was just highlighted once again that in this game, when you let your guard down, you can get stiffed. There's got to be a process with every single car you go through. And I know a lot of people in the comments go, "Wow, your car did. Of course you should do that." But Joe, you'll know this as well. It just when you start buying it in serious volume, day in, day out, these things can slip through the net. I know you've ended up with a Mini Clubman that's got outstanding finance on it, haven't you?
Yeah, so at the moment, we've got a Mini Clubman that's got outstanding finance on it. And we did check it, but then we just forgot. Not me, but someone else. But then on me, there was the, what was it I bought? An Evoque from a subscriber type of thing. And but there was a few weeks in between emails when we were talking about it. And by the time I came back to it, I assumed that I'd done the check beforehand and it was obviously all okay, and I hadn't. Yeah, so it's easily done. And you get those comments, don't you? Oh, you promote Vehicle Score, but you obviously don't use it.
Yeah.
But I do when I remember.
Was that a cat car as well, was it?
Yeah, that was a Category N.
Oh, bummer. That's quite... I mean, for me, at least with me, Jamie was letting me have a really good deal on the Audi, and in fairness to Jamie, even with a cat status, there was a good profit to be had out of it. But on something like an Evoque, I imagine that that's going to be quite fundamental.
Well, yeah, I mean, it killed it off anyway. I paid about $4.5 for it, I think, and or $4,250 or something. And I sent it to auction in the end because it had door locks that weren't working. I just thought this is too much of a headache, and I got rid of it. But yeah, in that scenario, I was like, you do realise this car's a Category N, so my own fault. I should have checked. And they're like, oh, I didn't know anything about that. And you think, I think you did. But
it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, we didn't know it was a category when we bought it. So is it possible that a consumer could buy a car and not know it's a category? Yeah, I guess if they went and bought off a private seller, they don't have to declare it, do they? So, and if your insurance company didn't tell you when you rang up and insured it and it's not on the V5, it can happen. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, obviously, apart from if you check it and the category status came on the car during their ownership period.
yeah.
In which case, then no, they're banged to rights.
Oh, no, that's it. I'll tell you what, it did. It did happen during his ownership, and he said, oh, yeah, it did have a bit of a scuff, and they repaired it, but they did a bit of a repair, but I didn't know it had been categorised or whatever. It's like you don't know.
You just forgot about the payout.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think with you, Jamie, it was like the guy seemed all kosher, didn't he? He was buying a nice motor off you, came from a nice property, and he was quite plummy, wasn't he? And I think you can let your guard slip, can't you?
Well, I couldn't have been any straighter with you than sending you the video that he sent me, a screenshot of the email that he sent me, and I'd asked all the questions. But to be honest, I never wanted to make any money out of that car. I just wanted to offload it for the same as what I paid for it. So I guess my mindset was, why do I want to pay for a check? I've asked him the question. I don't want to lose money on it, so I'll just move it on, and that was it. And you weren't on my radar. It was only the fact of where it was in the country, and I suddenly said to my other half, oh, actually, and it all just happened really fast. So it is what it is. But he's now come back to me, still professing that he knew nothing about it, and that actually he's got an issue with the new car, and would I be prepared to pay the bill, for the fix on the new car? And then I would actually share the email with you, and then it actually says, and then I'll be happy to leave you a positive review. So,
wow. Wow, that is the world we live in now as well, isn't it? Where reviews are held above you like I forget what the phrase is now, but they're held above you like an axe, aren't they? Ready to fall
Guillotine.
if you don't do exactly what they want within the time frame they want and the way you want it.
Yeah, got you over a barrel. They think until you just decide you don't care about the reviews.
How long before reviews become irrelevant because everybody's been using them as weapons like this?
A weapon. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so then they just totally lose all value, don't they? Really.
anyway, it wasn't a bad car, was it?
No, although my painter, because I said to my painter as well, as I said this guy's not declared it's a cat car, and everyone in my comments is saying these things burn oil for fun. I said I don't know, I haven't driven it long enough. I said, but if he has potentially, and I'm not saying categorically has, but if he had potentially withheld that piece of information, then there could be other faults with the cars he's withheld. And my painter rang me about booking into his place. He said, yeah, he said, it drives really nice, but I was on a hill. He said, and when I was on the hill, it came up with low oil pressure warning, turn off engine. And I said, right, okay. I said, well, I did tell you they burn oil for fun. I said, I've even heard of Audi saying sort of a litre per 600 or 1,000 miles or something ridiculous like that. I said, so you want to be carrying a vat of it in the boot. I said, or you need to offload it. But I had told him, I warned him as fairly as I could before that there's a potentially that if this guy didn't declare that, he might have not declared anything. And everybody's telling me these things are terrible for burning oil. So go into it with your eyes wide open.
It's funny, we were talking about this, I think we might have been talking about this at G3, or just in maybe it was, I don't know, a previous podcast. But just the way that the car dealers have got such a bad rep, right, for selling pieces of crap and then not wanting to fix them. But the other way around, people stitch us up with part exchanges that they've kind of glossed over everything and hidden stuff, and it's problems that they know are going to come out, but they don't tell you about. And then we are stuck with a problem to solve. We can't just be like, oh, this is ridiculous. I want that fixed under my 3 months, 6 months Consumer Rights Act coverage and all that sort of stuff. I got a warranty. That's why I bought it. What a nightmare it can be if you then end up with a car that owes you, not saying this case because it was probably cheap enough, but say you bought a car, like for example my Evoque. It was a reasonable enough price for a straight car, but when it turns out it's not straight, or it's got these problems like the door locks and whatever else it was doing, you've lost money, and it's just like, well, how much money do I lose and how quickly do I want rid of it? You've got no good options and you're stuck with it. There's no complaining and leaving them a bad review and slagging them off and all that sort of stuff, taking them to court. It's just tough titties. You're a car dealer.
It is funny, isn't it? Like you said, because they go in the comments and they go, yes, it's nice to see a dealer get stuck for once, this, that, and the other. And it's like, but guys, you don't realise this isn't for once. I would say undeclared faults on part exchanges probably, or sales to you, probably ranges in about 75% of vehicles you're sold end up having some issue with them that was undeclared. And then they're the very same people that will then go in the comments and go, oh, you guys, you offer us nothing for our part exchanges. Well, no, we don't, because we have to assume you're trying to dump something on us, or that we're going to have to do a load of fixes to it. It was really an interesting one last night. I bought a real cheapie last night, a little automatic A-Class Mercedes that I never should have bought, but someone put a valuation on my site and it was just down the road. And I turned up there and I'd given them a quote online, I think of 1,500 quid, and they said, oh, it's for the neighbour next door, they're elderly, they're giving up driving, it really could do with a bit more than that. They were hoping for more like sort of 1,700. So I went down and looked at this car, and the side of it has got a big scrape over the rear wheel arch into the door. And on the form, it said superficial door scratch. So I'm assuming like a key mark but no, literally the rear quarter is scuffed through the paint, dented the arch, then goes into the door. I'm like, right, okay. And then I go to unlock the car and lock it again, and the locks go click, 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 click. You know, like when one of the central locking's not working. I start it up. The alternator belt is squealing like nothing on earth, and the windows are all fogged up. So they must be like really fogged up. So there must be bad seals somewhere around the car. And again, but it's a lovely car. And I said, look, I don't like to do this to you, but you know, I was being really generous at 15. I don't think it's worth that. And it's the same as We Buy Any Car. We Buy Any Car told us they'd give us 18 for it, but when we got down there, they didn't offer us anything like that, and they wouldn't actually tell me how much they offered. And I'm like, but that's why. That's why. You know, if you came to buy that, and they said, well, it's an older car, isn't it? I was like, if you came to buy that, would you buy that with that arch all scraped and dinged up like that? Would you buy it with a squealing alternator belt on it? And then I thought the funny thing was, they said, well, we have looked online, and these, you know, these can sell for between £2,000 and £2,500. And I'm like, right, okay. So I've offered you 1,500 quid for a car that you think I might only have £500 margin in, but now we've got a dinged in rear arch, an alternator belt, and various other bits and bobs. So you think I'm onto a good thing with £500 margin, and you were squeezing me for another 100, 200 quid to get to 1,700. So you want like £300 margin in the car? The mindset was just, it really did. I'd struggled with that mindset that it was so, you know, that a dealer could walk away with a car with less than £500 margin and need that level of work doing to it, and sell it and still be doing okay. Suffice to say, I still bought it, but I did chip them right down. I chipped them down to 1,200.
Oh,
And
bloody
then
hell.
they told me that We Buy Any Car. I told them 1,100. I mean, in reality, it's probably worth, you know, a few of the things I didn't find till I drove away, probably 850, 900, maybe.
I'd have given 500 quid, I expect, if that.
Yeah, yeah, but it's just, but we are the terrible people for coming to look at your car and then just trying to cut you off at the knees and buy it from you for next to nothing.
Do you know, in that situation, we need to talk to Jamie about TVS in a minute. But
Yeah,
in that
sorry, Jamie.
situation, when you turn up and someone's asked for a price, and then you turn up and it's not as described, and you know, you to make it realistic for you, you've got to knock a massive chunk off. I would rather not do that and just say, I don't want it. Sorry. Sorry, it's
Yeah,
not what
I
I
was
was.
tempted
I'd
to.
rather not walk away, and then there's no like you've turned up and tried to twist their arm into it, and you've, you know, done some kind of horrible car dealer tactic where you've offered something and then clearly with the intention of coming and knocking them down. I'd rather just say I don't want it. Then you can't say I've tried to knock you down. I don't really want all these problems anyway. If it was straight, it might have been a fair price, but now for me to get this car at a fair price, like you say, it needs to be like 500 quid. And you obviously don't want that, and you're going to say that I'm the worst person in the world, so just leave it.
And I was actually trying, because they go, no, she said she can't take less than £1,400 on it. And I was like, that's absolutely fine, no problem at all, no harm, no foul. I've come out, had a look, that's fine. I don't want to force on her. Perhaps she should look to private sell it, something like that. And I was all ready to walk off. And then like, oh no, don't worry, we'll go in. And then it's like, I didn't really want this car anyway. So
Warning, red flags. You know, if you're like, no, I'm going to leave it, I don't really want it, and they're like, hang on, hang on, hang on. You're like, you're here and you look semi-interested. Let's get it into you before we got to look for someone else.
I can't imagine why people call me a soft touch all the time on my channel.
Hey, James, come on up here. I got some stock for you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I've got some stuff to get from you, haven't I? Anyway, Jamie, sorry, Jamie.
How are
Yes,
you?
Jamie Turner of Tailored Vehicle Solutions. We went off on a tangent there, but give us in 30 seconds your story, how you've ended up selling cars, what it is, what's the business look like, and what do you do?
Okay, so hello, thank you. TVS is a rename of my business that I started 10 years ago, which was Motora, predominantly an accident repair centre, servicing and mechanical work. And just last year got a little bit difficult in terms of finding good people. Work has dropped off a little bit in terms of insurance claims and bits and pieces because the bigger guys are kind of monopolising everything. So we had a conversation and decided that we would go down the route of more sales. However, very, very difficult to do that with my existing company name because it's got 10 years worth of accident repair history all over the internet and everywhere else. So everybody that was coming along to buy a car was automatically asking the question, has it been smashed up? Has it been written off? And it just wasn't really helping us. So we said, okay, let's sort of change things a little bit. So it cost me an absolute fortune to rebrand, but we've done it, and I'm now just still in that transitional period where I'm trying to stop doing retail work in terms of accident repair stuff, because we've still got all the same facilities. And at the moment, we're probably doing 10 cars a month, but that's 10 cars that are absolute pinnacle of quality and prep. Everything is done in-house. I'm as OCD as it gets with prepping cars. So probably just, again, learning that I'm over-prepping when I don't need to. And yeah, so really just enduring the struggles of trying to find good cars. Just going back to what we were talking about there with part exchanges. I've also gone down the route of CarWow and Motorway, and I was quite excited a couple of weeks ago to go out on a Sunday and go round and pick up and inspect all of the cars that I'd bought, to come back with none of them. So that highlights, how a customer feels that something is superficial when actually, it's been stuck back together with some double-sided tape and glue, and I would need to pull the whole thing apart to do it properly. Yeah, just intrigued to get to network with new people, understand what other people do in circumstances. And just before we started there, I was just saying I've never had such a bad run of buying cars, 30,000 miles Scirocco petrols that, have got engines gone. It's just heartbreaking. And even more, when we're talking about how the customer feels that we're always trying to make the money, some of my cars have gone out in minus figures, and that's it.
It is scary, isn't it? I mean, it's properly scary how bad a 30,000 mile newer car can be now. Like that, you wouldn't ever think before that you would need to have a concern about an engine under 50,000 miles on a, say, 5-year-old or less car. But the engines just don't seem to. I know it's rose tinted glasses and all that kind of stuff, but they just don't seem to last like they do at all. I mean, I can buy a Mazda 2 from 2007, 2008, 2009, a Nissan Note with a 1.4 from 2010, 11, 12, with 80, 90,000 miles on, and not really have any concern that engine's going to do anything serious until it's probably hitting 200,000 miles. But I'm tiptoeing around a Ford Fiesta that's 4 or 5 years old with a 1 litre in it, or a 1.2 Peugeot in it, or a 2 litre Land Rover, or I mean, there's probably a list of other. Oh, yeah, even a 1.2 Nissan with a turbo on it. It just the list is getting bigger and bigger of cars that you just you just wouldn't even touch, even young with mega low miles. But you go and seek out an old 2.2 Land Rover, or yeah, scary, really.
It is.
I'd love to see the stats on from like Peugeot or Citroen or whatever, because how many 1.2 PureTech engines or cars with a 1.2 PureTech engine has its original engine at 50,000 miles? I would not be surprised at all if it was 50% have had a new engine.
I've got a Peugeot 308 out there with 45,000 miles on it, and that's had a new engine.
The last two that I've had have both, well, I mean, one that I bought, it had the wrong engine in, so it wouldn't work. It was just, not only is it a terrible engine, but it was, different dipstick colours meant that the ECU and fuel pump didn't work with each other and whatever. Yeah, it is. And funny enough, I saw in the car sales dealer group yesterday, someone had handwritten out a list of cars they wouldn't buy, like Range Rover Ingeniums, 1.2 PureTechs, Eco Boosts. The list went on and on and on. And they're like, is there anything else to add? And people come down, and you're right, the cars. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though that you've got all these people out there when you put a video out about a battery car, and you wait until you have to replace the battery on that one, and you're buying in Teslas that are 10 years old with 150,000 miles on, still on the same batteries. I've not really heard. Yes, can start to go down, but I've not heard of people have to replace motors on electric cars. I've not really heard of anybody actually having to replace the battery yet on an electric car. But when you mention anything like this at all, people are straight into the comments saying, oh, you wait to this, that, and the other. But they're driving around these cars where the engines munching themselves at 50,000 miles.
Yeah, it can be a nightmare. So, tell you what, I'll bring up the the website now. I did just put the picture of the garage up that you sent me, so it's a nice looking place you've got, to be fair.
I haven't got a lot on there. I've got a load of cars here that are in prep, and I need to get on and get them on there. But it's just difficult. It's only the two of us at the moment, and some good sort of subcontractors that I help or that come in and help. But I'm just trying to do it properly, really. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think from someone who probably hasn't done everything really properly, not necessarily not properly, but as well as I should have, I definitely think get the system, the process right first, and then you can think about expanding and all that sort of stuff. How many cars are you keeping in stock? Let's say, in an ideal situation.
At the moment, it's about 15. But obviously half of them are in prep at the moment. I mean, obviously I'd like to build on that, but then I also don't know if December's the greatest time to go out and buy a load more stock.
It won't get any better for a little while until
No.
March. Prices won't get much cheaper. Prices I don't think will go down. I mean, well, this is the other complaint everyone's having. Retail prices are coming down, but trade prices are still staying strong. There's a real weird disconnect between people complaining now. Car dealers are always complaining about something, but like historically, at least for the last 4 or 5 years while I've been doing it, you've got your cap prices that are kind of quite conservative here, and your auto trader where it actually sells is going to be a bit higher, so it gives you like a reasonable margin in between. But like cap prices are coming up, or stuff selling well over cap, but the actual retail prices with auto trader is dropping, so it's like squeezing.
Do you ever seek out deals on BCA and places like that with the buy now rather than waiting for the auctions?
I may have bought 1 or 2 that way. I know Nick of Lovely Car Company does that kind of pretty much exclusively. He buys the buy now stuff.
Well, I find there's a lot more margin in the buy now stuff.
Really? He thinks that as well, which is interesting. But I think the reason they're on a buy now is normally they've been through the sale once and didn't
sell, yeah.
meet whatever.
Yeah.
And he says there's usually an issue. But I mean, I was looking over the weekend. The ones that I tend to find are on the buy now, and I could be wrong, are where they've had a lease, like mass dump. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's great stuff. A bit like the 540i that I just bought just yesterday. I mean, I did buy that in auction, but I think it may have been on a buy now as well. And some others like 330es, that sort of thing, where they've all obviously come off the end of a lease and they've all got their new car. And they've got so many of them, they put them on a buy now. But I could be wrong. But have you bought goods? Have you found there's been problems with stuff that you've bought on a buy now?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I don't think that problem wouldn't have been there if I'd bought it through auction. I don't necessarily think that they're always accurately described. And some of them. I mean, how do you gauge it? Because some of them, where it constantly says engine tapping, and it's just a normal noise, and then the next one you get that says engine tapping, and it's got no compression. So, I think they deliberately do it, don't they, to minimise their claims by, every single 2-litre Land Rover on there has got an amber or red mark against the engine, whether it's good or not. But I feel that I'm seeing that a lot more, and it doesn't really help to give you a real insight as to what the problem might be with it.
I've heard other people say the buy nows are good, but I've never done it myself. I've always looked at them and they didn't look like they had quite enough margin on them for me. But having been at the auctions, as you were saying, Joe, I was looking at, I had a list of stuff I was going to bid on when we were live at G3 the other day. And like you say, everything was exceeding cap, but at the same time, everyone's telling you that they're having a terrible time of it and they're not selling lots. And you think, well, what's going on then? But I think your theory, Joe, might be right, that if everybody is having a terrible time and they're not taking a lot of Part X's in, then the amount of stock available in the market is reduced. Therefore, those that have emptied out a couple of spots will overpay to refill them again.
Yeah, well, it's more like the big car supermarkets and the big dealers and whatever, who are where everyone else gets all their stock from anyway. Then if they're not doing the numbers, then it's just like the whole flow, the supply is whittled down. You've still got the same amount of people wanting to buy them, so the demand is higher. On a trade sense, even though demand on a retail sense is lower, it doesn't seem to make sense. But when you think about it, the less that's coming through the system from the dealerships, the main dealers and that sort of thing, there's still like 19,000 or something car dealers in the country, and they're all vying for those fewer cars that are around. So yeah, people get desperate. Competition gets higher. It's like another opportunity to make money, even if things aren't really selling, which is tricky. You can't just. It's hard. In a sense, you want to be like, oh, it's just time to take a break and just not do anything and don't buy at the moment because prices are stupid. But who knows when they'll get better? Who knows? Yeah, you can't just not have some income, can you?
Do you seem to focused on higher value stuff there, Jamie? Looking at it, newer, higher value stuff. Was that a conscious decision?
I wouldn't say it's high value. I'd say I'm not really that interested in doing sub 5,000 cars because I think after watching your channel in particular, the amount of issues that I can imagine that arise on a car like that must be, horrific at some points. But equally, I just think I'm in a sweet spot where people don't need the finance. I haven't done one finance deal, I don't think, for the last 6 months. Everybody just comes and seems to pay for them. And I just feel comfortable around that sort of, price bracket, I suppose.
What would you say your price bracket is? Sort of like 7.5 up to 25, something like that?
7.5 up to 25, yeah. And occasionally, if something comes in, then I'll do a little bit more. But I was just thinking about December and everybody being a little bit careful at the moment. But I've got 6 Fiestas on site that are all going to be, 5 or 6 grand. So I'll see how I go with them as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you do well. They won't have huge margins in, but they'll sell quickly. I was looking at some of your other stuff and whatever. It's almost turning into a bit of a motor trade mentors. Not that you necessarily need it, but just kind of I find it interesting to kind of look and see what it helps me think about what I'm doing as well. Because I'm just looking at this X5 because I think I've got a bid in today at BCA on an X5 for about 30 odd grand. Which is above my normal sort of stuff, and also it's not what I necessarily think is selling that well at the moment. But then again, I don't know, just because it's such a weird market at the minute.
Well, the X5 sold last week,
right,
and that went to a trader.
And how much was that?
So retail was about 44, trade was about 34. It had 15 grand's worth of options, so it was a nice one, and I traded out of it for 41.
So you sold it for 41. Oh, okay. Well, you did well then.
I did very well with it. Yeah,
41.
Yeah, very well. That was a trade deal. So,
did someone search you out for that trade deal, or did you offer it up trade somewhere?
That I put on DealAway.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. How are you finding DealAway?
That's the only one I've had success with.
Okay, that's interesting to hear.
I think for £79 a month, I think there's better alternatives. And then they've just recently introduced the lower grade with people that don't have to have motor trade insurance and other bits and pieces. And I've had some messages from those members, and it doesn't seem to go through to fruition. So I think, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to make out as if I'm anything better than anyone else. But the ones that are going for the free membership that don't have to upload the trade insurance and don't have to have a business premise and stuff like that, often are the ones that just message you with, the message saying lowest price, mate.
Just dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear.
I feel that we've sold some nice stuff though. If you look back through that page that you're on at the moment, I think all of our cars look nice.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's nice stuff. I guess my theory or question would be is, what is the plan? What do you want? What do you want? This really is turning into a motor trade mentors. But what's like the end goal? What is it in your head? Not saying even I've got an end goal in my head, but what's your idea of what you want your garage to look like? What you're going to be stocking? What you're going to be selling? Or how many do you want to sell?
I don't have any inhibitions to change the price banding or anything like that for a little while. I'd like to get to a consistent 20 cars a month, and certainly have 20, 25 in stock. And I just want life to calm down a little bit because, even prior to this business, I did 10 years running a national car finance company where we were one of actually the first people to offer the sort of find, fund and deliver option. and I built an in-house prep centre. We had 4 multi-car transporters on the road, and we were doing 150 cars a month. And even though that wasn't my business, I was working an obscene amount of hours. I then jumped ship because there wasn't any prospect there. And I've practically done the same thing for the last 10 years, where I've just worked and worked and worked. Holidays and stuff like that are a thing of the past. So I just want to get the business to a comfortable position where if you did want to take some time off or you did want to do something, it's there to do. But at the moment, because I'm still doing retail work and big accident repair jobs, as in, you know, some of them are even 10,000 plus in terms of value of the job, so that dedicates all my time for maybe a week, 2 weeks on a job. I'm still not at that point where I can not have to be here, if that makes sense. We're still having to be here to take delivery of a car, to speak to the customer, to update the customer, to make sure the customer's car is done in time, to have courtesy cars and all the rest of it. So I'm not truly where I want to be yet. I want to be sort of solely the sales, but if I want to take on a job, I want to be able to cherry pick that job and know that I've got time to do it.
Fair enough. So,
Yeah, apologies, guys. Some customers turned up looking at a car outside. That's why I disappear off.
no worries. So, how you say you got 2 in the team?
It's only myself and my
You
partner
and
at the
another?
moment. Yeah.
Okay, so your partner is in like a business partner or your other half?
Both.
Okay, fine. Brave man.
Yeah. She is.
And so it's just you, and you're doing all the accident repair and everything as well, but you also want to do car sales on the side.
The biggest issue I had, you know, when I was running it as a business of full accident repair, is that I seemed to get to a point towards the end where I was having to redo the job myself anyway. Because no matter how much I paid, no matter what I offered, I just couldn't get anybody that was prepared to work to a standard that I thought was acceptable. And what I suppose people
Interesting. My
didn't
painter
realise...
says the same thing.
Yeah, but what they don't realise is, not being the owner, is that, you know, the reason customers come back to you is because of the experience that they had the time before. And if you just drop that standard and they go away and somebody picks up, because a lot of people have their cars valeted and stuff like that these days, and they only have to get a valeter to say, oh, there's, you know, some dust in the paint, or oh, there's a run or something like that. And I was coming back into the business and saying, right, is that job done? Yeah, it's all done. And then I'd look at it and I'd say, but what about that? And what about that? And it didn't matter what I seemed to do, I just could not get anything right. So it's just far easier if I do it myself, and it takes half the time. And I know that the standard's right and that, you know, the customer's going to be happy.
Jamie saw my Railcan jobs and he was on the phone begging me to get up there and start painting. He was like, seriously, mate,
This is what I've been looking for.
this is what I've been looking for, this level of standard.
I think what I actually said was that I scream at the telly when I'm watching you.
Come on, mate, you had an opportunity to make it up for me there. It's my painter says exactly the same thing. He's tried to increase his business, expand his business several times, have someone there while he's out remote or vice versa, and he just can't find decent painters, not to the standard he wants. So he's not able to expand the business, quite frankly, because it just ends up redoing work, like you've said.
Trouble is, there's nobody new coming into the trade.
No, that's the scary thing about all the kind of skilled stuff, isn't it? Really, is the lack of people. Unfortunately, they want to come out and be influencers. Can't imagine why.
Yeah, or YouTubers.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I'll bring up the page where you've got about your accident repairs. You've got, I mean, if you wanted to do content and that sort of thing, you've got a great opportunity to be like, oh, this is, you know, we're taking a X file from looking like this to looking like this, and all that sort of stuff. That, you know, might help out. I'm just sat here sort of mulling over. Because obviously, when you sent us in messages, you did send us in a message for the Motor Trade Mentors. To be fair, I wonder if I can find your email where you sort of asked a few questions. Your 3 challenges were buying stock, not selling enough stock, and price of third-party services. I'm just trying to think about, you know, your current situation and what it's tricky, isn't it? Because you're doing the body repairs. I assume it makes you a reasonable living. It must do. Looking at the sort of stock that you've then got and your nice unit that you've got and the price of the jobs that you're saying you're doing. But you want more time to yourself. So what you thought you'd do is add on car sales and still do it mainly yourself?
Not add-on car sales, but transition to car sales. Yeah.
I think one thing I've learned is so much you can do. So if you want, you know, you can't build 3 like mega businesses at the same time. You need to build one, focus entirely on that, and then add the other bits in. It's tricky. It's tricky because I mean, the obvious thing to say would be, oh, you need some help. You need some labor in there. But if you're saying you can't get the right people, even if you were to pay the right money, then for the paint side of things, then yeah, I can see it's tricky because that would have been my sort of first obvious solution. Would be get yourself a good body shop guy, pay him more than you want to, if needs be, to get the right person.
But that's not the route that I want to go down now. I have made the transition. I'm just filling in.
Okay, so you really don't want to move away from it?
Yeah, I definitely want to move away from it, and I definitely want to concentrate on the sales. But what I'm saying is, I find it difficult to turn away a good insurance job, because why wouldn't you? You know, it's a great income to have in between selling cars. It's just that sometimes it can then hamper getting cars prepped for sale. So hence the reason that I've done a few big jobs recently, and now I've got 7 cars sat out there that need prepping. So now I'm back onto them when really they should have already been advertised.
I think you've got a really nice setup for doing nice motors, because you showed me a picture of your new handover area you've done recently. You've done a new handover area which looks fantastic, and the building you're in looks great. I think you're in a good position to do some nice motors. I think probably the price point you're at as well suits the kind of premises you have as well. I don't think you've got any need to be doing cheapies in a setup like that. But I know what you're saying about the paint side thing. I guess at the end of the day, if you end up doing the nearly new, the younger, lower mileage, cleaner stuff, then you probably will have a bit more spare. Well, I shouldn't say that, should I? You will have a bit more spare time to carry on doing a bit of paint work. But I guess as we said earlier, these newer cars are coming in with as many problems as the older stuff.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a necessity to carry on doing that work, you know. And I'm sure at some point I will say I don't want to do it anymore. But I have to remember that I've got a passion for making things look stunning. You know, I'm good at it, and we've got all the facilities to do it. So if it's there and somebody's willing to pay you to do it, then I guess I just do it.
It's a very common thing we're finding, isn't it, when we talk to people that started out that are around about the 10 car mark, is we talk about over prepping, and I think it's because you can have the time and resources to do that when you've got that smaller volume of cars. And we call it over prepping, but obviously it's really nice to have the cars absolutely mint. The trouble is, it's just you can't really expand out of that volume of cars and continue with that level of prep. It's almost like if there were just thousands and thousands of dealers out there selling 10 cars a month, everyone could go up and have immaculate, perfect cars. But the reality is that no one would have a successful enough business. I'm just going to nip off and see my customer 1 second. Sorry, I keep doing this today. We said it'd be a bit like it, didn't we?
Looking forward to hearing him do business then.
I know. Well, the first podcast I ever had him on, he sold a car. So yeah. Do you think when it's sort of like end goal then, when you're doing car sales, you're still going to keep your workshop where you can do, or you're going to build that into showroom or what?
No, it's a bit of a funny layout to have as a showroom, really. I've got the benefit here, which on many industrial estates doesn't happen, but I've got a secure compound as part of the grounds that takes, 20, 25 cars. So I don't really need to have them inside as such. It'd be nice to, obviously, but the downstairs of my place is it's just not a showroom layout. It's got the car lift that takes the cars up to the first floor, which is where the body shop is. So that kind of takes pride of place in the middle of the workshop. So yeah, no, I think I'll always keep it as mechanical downstairs, bodywork upstairs, and then the handover bay is now inside. And then obviously I've got the outside storage as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I guess you say you got 7 cars or whatever to prep. Maybe you need to set yourself some rules. Last night I was in bed and I was setting out our new sales process and our new prep process, actually putting it on paper, how I want it to happen. And I can have have a staff meeting and I can hold everyone accountable to it. Maybe you need to be like, well, I can't take on an insurance job unless I've got less than 2 cars to prep. If I got more than that, then I haven't got time, and I'm prioritizing sales. I I take it you can't subby out some of those insurance jobs. Or you just saying you
I,
wouldn't find
I, I
the
would
people,
never
even
sub out the insurance jobs. Smaller jobs I could do, but then, you've got that same issue again of you get the car back and then is it going to be to the right standard? And it's got my name attached to it. I don't dispute the fact in this area, I think our business is known as doing a proper job and a good job. But there is cheaper people around this area. There's a lot of local smart repairers. There's some smaller shops that, baffles me how they do it sometimes. If I give a price of £1,200, they're doing it for 350. I don't see how you can do it, but I don't want to go down to that level.
No. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I guess it's a case of
It's just a ever evolving ship, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you know what you need to do, but it's hard to sort of retrain yourself, isn't it? It's like it's been hard for me to retrain myself to not take pictures of a car straight away and prep it completely first, down to being ready to roll away before we photograph it, because my mindset has always been like go. As soon as we've got it, pictures online. Let people know it's coming. We've got it, and they can get it from us. But
And do you think that's made a difference?
I think it's too soon to really measure it, but I think theoretically there shouldn't be any reason why it wouldn't. But we have already now, since changing to this approach in the last few weeks, 3 cars that we've sold and they've just taken on the same day, which we haven't done in a long time. It doesn't normally happen for us because we're like, well, we still need to do the MOT. We'll put it through for a service, and we might rush it through in 2 or 3 days, but never like, come back and get it this afternoon. We'll just give it, a quick wash and it's all yours. So I think it's got to be greasing the wheels. So, and I think it won't hold us up once we've got a system in place and things are rolling through. And it helped me last week or the week before when I was running out of cash flow basically because I had more and more cars coming in. We bought everything that we had, but I still wanted to buy more. So the only way I could do it was to sell off some stuff. But we traded it on, and they were all pretty much ready for the forecourt, which just meant they flew off to other traders.
So you can prep everything in house other than paint.
Yeah, pretty much paint, wheels. Yeah, we'll do the mechanical stuff unless it needs something specialist. But yeah, we'll get it straight in for a PDI service. Order any bits that it needs. Yeah. Valet it, paint correction, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously see what you do on the channel, but do you get backlogs or waiting for paint and stuff to get done or not?
Yeah, it can do. I think, but it depends what it is. Most of our stuff only needs minor stuff, so we'll, might just swap one with another one at the body shop when that's done. Same with wheels. So I've actually got a guy coming in today to help out with some driving. So he's going to take a Volvo XC60 over to Western Wheels and he'll bring back a Range Rover that just had the wheels done on, and then he's going to take something else to the body shop and bring back something else. There's not usually too much of a hold up unless it's a big job, but then I try and avoid those anyway.
Yeah. And how do you manage to buy stuff that doesn't need much cosmetic work doing then?
You just got to pick and choose it, haven't you? If no one's putting a gun to your head to buy something.
Do you just look out for the obvious signs that something's going to need paint, or is it just down to you'll only buy a car that's no more than grade 2 or something like that? How do you minimise the amount of cosmetics you have to do?
Do you know what? A bit like you were talking earlier with the BCA reports, and it says like it's got a bit of a noise from the engine, and you can't necessarily trust that. Same with the grading sometimes. Sometimes a grade 4, in my opinion, will be better than a grade 2. Some grade 4s, some grade 2s. So yeah, I'll try and look into it, but I am now at a point where I'm just like, do you know what? Actually, it's different for you, I guess, because you can do it yourself. I used to be like, I don't mind buying stuff that needs work, especially if it helps me get it cheaper and then I can get it done and whatever. Whereas now it's just I just want a quick flow of stuff. So if I can avoid it, I will. Minor little repairs, fine, but I don't want big jobs. And like you say, then our body shops are good, but say, to be fair, we bought something just a couple of days ago, and of course it was covered in snow. Turns out that the car's like a really dark metallic blue, but it's got a black wrap on the bonnet, and I'm like, oh god, didn't see it because it was covered in snow when they went to pick it up. And our driver's colourblind, which is not great. But I'm like, what's going to be underneath it? If it needs, it won't matter if it needs, like a 400 quid bonnet respray, but guarantee it will come back and you're like, that looks slightly off. It's hard, isn't it? And then it's like, oh, it's going down a bit of a rabbit hole, I think. One thing after another.
No, it is interesting to see what other people do, but you're basically saying that you'd probably rather pay a little bit more and not have to get involved in all of that sort of stuff than, like, I'm still at the stage where maybe I'm looking at grade 3s and 4s and bits and pieces thinking, well, I can just do that. But actually, all it's doing is creating me a backlog because I've got to do so much work to everything.
Yeah, 100%. That's not how I used to be, but that's how I am now. And especially with we're buying stuff for our car buying service, which is going great for us because generally speaking, it's coming from people who really like their cars and they want it to go to someone that they also like. And, they're normally, nice things. But yeah, you want to get away from body repair. The benefit you've got is that you can do body repair. But if you're kind of like just buying more body repair work for yourself, I would look at it the way I look at it now is that if cars are grade 1 or 2 and that makes it 500 quid more to buy than a grade 3 or 4, I bet you the bits and pieces needed on a grade 3 or 4 are going to make it more than 500 quid, or it's going to take up more of your time that would stop you from selling another car that would make you 4 times that much. I don't want it because I don't want the delay, and I don't want the expense, and I don't want the potential issues. And I guess maybe you should not want it because it's putting you back in the workshop again, which is not where you want to be.
I'm back, and I have to share my story with you of my experience of trying to sell a car this morning.
Go on then.
Toyota Aygo up for 2795, 2011, 70,000 miles. Auto Trader values it at 2680, but there's not a lot of small stock round locally. Small CC, cheap, sub £3,000 stock. So I always go a little bit higher on that stock because I think you can. Chap booked to come and see it. He's just had a look round it. Didn't want to take it for a drive, and he's just shown me a sheet of paper where he has every MOT the car has ever had in its life on a 2011 car and what it failed on. He then said he needed to question why it would be MOT'd with only a 4-month gap between the MOT, which I had to explain was because I can't send out a car based on what might have happened in the last 4 months on the road for safety. It needs to have a new MOT. He said, okay. He said, okay, but I've looked it up online, and We Buy Any Car say that car is only worth £700. And Parker says even worse, it's only worth £680. And I honest to God, guys, you just don't know what to say in those circumstances, do you? So I pulled up Auto Trader and said, well, there's Auto Trader, and it says it's worth 260 something odd pounds, and I've got it up for 2795. So best I could do is match what Auto Trader says it could be. I said, but if you bought me that car to my yard, 2011, 70,000 miles, with a new MOT on it, and I offered you £600, you'd be insulted, wouldn't you? I said, I can't buy the cars at that price. If I could find them that price, I'd fill this yard full of them. If I could buy Aigos 2011 with that mileage on with new MOTs for £600, I'd fill the entire yard full of them, wouldn't I? So yeah, I can only view that as really a complete waste of my time, because why would you come out to look at a car that you thought was £2,100 overpriced?
It makes you hate the public, doesn't it?
So he didn't buy it.
What do you do in those circumstances?
Well, in those circumstances, this is why I'm not involved, because I'd almost be like, okay, no worries, and just before I get annoyed, I just walk away from them and leave it, because I just think you're such a twat. But if I was in that situation and I could keep my cool, I would just be like, oh, okay, oh, that's interesting. What colours have We Buy Any Car and Parker's got in stock at the moment?
Yeah.
Well, obviously they don't sell cars. It's like, right, well, you're not going to buy one for that price then, are you? That's the price they're recommending that someone like myself might want to buy it. And I'd love to buy it for that price. But in fact, I paid at least twice as much as that. And then I've put a lot of work into it. So if you think my price is high, then you've got a lot more research to do on your buying kind of journey yet. So...
And if you're out looking for a 13-year-old car that's never failed an MOT, some of those MOT failures are bulbs and wiper blades, but
people seem to set themselves the impossible task. You're not going to
yeah,
find
impossible time. I want one owner. Every MOT has been done exactly 12 months apart, it always passed every MOT without anything required on it. It is 13 years old and is mint condition inside now. He said to me, he said, "You've had it serviced. What service you done?" I said, "Well, it's a Toyota Aygo 1 litre. It's had its oil and filter done on it. There's nothing." Oh, so a minor service. I said, well, in all fairness, there's nothing really else on a 1 litre Aygo you can do. There's no cabin filter.
Yeah, unless you're going to do plugs and
Unless you
stuff
want me
as
to
well or whatever.
do the brake fluid on it, yeah, it is. It can be very challenging at times. I just don't know what goes through somebody's head like that when they set off in the morning to come and do a viewing. Yeah, if I thought a car was that drastically overpriced.
When I was a bit newer to this and a bit more enthusiastic, and I'd been listening to Dave's podcast in the early days, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Nick again of the Lovely Car Company said, when you get those stupid questions, someone phones up and it's like, "Can you tell me a little bit more about the car?" And you're there thinking, "Well, I've put like a bloody essay on the listing. I've put a picture of every service history. I've put a video that points out every mark on it. There's 100 pictures. Like, what else do you want to know?" And his theory was like, that's your opportunity to. I'm asking about the car, but I want to know about you. What are you going to say? What are you going to? So he will go into this thing, and that's what I would do now. Is if I'm like, well, all the information's there, but it will come with a 3-month warranty. We do a fresh service. We'll do a fresh MOT if it's due, or within 6 months or whatever, and you can kind of give your opportunity. But now, unfortunately, which is probably why it's better, I'm not in sales. I probably disqualify people much earlier than I should do because Jason will deal with them and he will do very well. But someone like that, for example, oh well, we only cast. I'm already like, I think you're a prick. You've pissed me off, coming and saying crap like that. You're ignorant for a start, and you've wasted my time. I wouldn't say this to people, but instantly I'm just like, you're not buying. This is a massive waste of my time from here on out. So talking to you and giving you an explanation as to why or whatever, I'm much happier these days to just. Someone says, "Oh well, it failed an MOT back then. Why was that? How's that work been done?" It's like, well, it's had 6 MOTs since it hasn't been mentioned, so I'd assume it has done. Oh right, well, yeah, it'd be interesting to know. Have you got the receipts for that? It's like, no, I haven't. People, oh, why haven't you got the receipts? Well, because people aren't very good at filing stuff sometimes, and some people aren't that bothered. But it's, you go on, and when it gets to a certain point, and I'm just like, I haven't got any more time to give you for this. You're not going to buy it, and if you were, I wouldn't want to sell it to you. So.
Yeah. It's funny because we talk about it's good that the consumer is informed, but I think so many consumers don't know how to analyze the data they're being provided. They're just kind of like they just get it from everywhere, and they don't really know what is meaningful and what's not meaningful.
What is it? Some of the things people say to us, like, "Oh, why has it had so many owners?" Or, I wouldn't any of these things. Or like, "Oh, the mileage is much higher." Like, how many miles are on that 10,000, BMW X5 that's like 3 years old out there? And you're like, "Oh, it has got 120,000." You're like, "Well, that's why it's 10,000 and it looks really good value." If it. So I tell you what, I'll bring one up here for what you were hoping I would say, which is 25,000 miles, and it's 25 grand. And they're like, "Oh, bloody hell! Oh, well, no, it just looked good value," sort of thing. There's just no. They haven't got the understanding, I guess, but there's just no logic behind it. It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know what the answer to it is. I don't think there is any answer to it. I think we're always going to find those people in any industry you're in, I guess, whatever industry, and you're going to find it. And I know that someone will walk on, in a couple of days' time and go, "Toyota Aygo, perfect. That's what I wanted for my daughter. Got a new MSC in it, brilliant. Been serviced, brilliant. Ideal. Off we go."
Yeah, yeah. It's getting harder. It's getting harder. It really
Yeah, I
is.
mean, questions like that, like why has it had so many owners, and why has it done this, and why has it done that, I find really hard to answer because it's like I haven't owned the vehicle. I never owned it. I bought it a couple of weeks ago, and I put it through my MOT, and we got. I can't. You want me to give you a reason that makes you feel better about buying the car, but I'd just be totally guessing.
Yeah.
I'd be guessing what the reason for it is.
I don't want giving Jamie an opportunity to speak here, but I did used to always say that I think buyers want you to lie to them. They don't want the truth from you. They want you to. The thing is, here's the thing. Here's the true thing, and it sounds bad. They want you to lie to you because we won't. But I think a lot of them do want you to lie to them. So they'll say, "Oh, is it going to be reliable?" They don't want you to say, "Well, I can't guarantee it, but that's why we give you a warranty." And every car, especially this one at 12 years old, there's a fair chance something will go wrong at some point. and that's why we give you a warranty, and that's why we give you breakdown cover, and that's why we're here at the end of the phone. That's a great answer, and that's very true. But that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear, yeah, it's a great car. It's not. These cars, this one, definitely not going to give you any problems whatsoever. In fact, I know this car and whatever. I know the last 2 owners, and they're both like loved it, whatever. That's what they want to hear, even though they'll use it against you in the future, and it's not what we do. But in an ideal world, that's what they would hear, and then they'd be placated and feel happy. But that's just not living in reality, and we're not going to do that.
My best performing video on YouTube to date with the most views is you want car dealers to lie to you, and it's just me stood in front of a Mini. It's 10 minutes long. I'm stood in front of a Mini going, I'm trying to sell this Mini Cooper. It's from a couple of years back. Trying to sell this Mini Cooper S, and I said, people are ringing me up and they're going, I can hear they can have timing chain problems. And I'm like, yeah, they can. You know, I can hear they can get coked up valves. Yes, they can. I can hear they do this. So all these people were ringing me, and I was saying, yeah, you can be right. You know, you should be cautious. I was saying to some people, it might be worth having a little bit of a fund, you know, to one side to do some of these known repairs going forwards. And it's like I said in the video, I said, but they don't actually want you to tell them that stuff. They're not buying it because I'm telling them the truth. They want me to say, as you said, no, never had that issue with one. No, this one will be absolutely fine. You'll never have any challenges. So like you say, they do to a certain extent, one, because also then when that turns out not to be the case going forwards, they can tell me, what a terrible car dealer. He told me.
You told me.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah.
I once went to a car dealer and I said, look at this Audi A5. It's clean.
Yeah, exactly that.
You can trust me.
Exactly that. Yeah. It's but like I say, I guess it's the same in many industries out there. I'm sure a lot of people get in the comments, and you know, I know people commenting that they sell used computers and other electrical goods and stuff like that, and they have similar challenges.
But you know what I find interesting, just to keep going off on a tangent here, I always used to say to everyone here that they get upset if someone was being arsey about a car, or you know, some real minor thing had happened and they wanted to reject it or get a refund or whatever, and they'd be trying to argue the toss and, you know, trying to placate them and whatever, and I'd be like, just don't worry about it, just let them have the money back and get it, because, you know, sometimes it's nothing wrong with the car, there's something wrong with the customer, you know, or it's not a bad car, it's a bad customer, but the next one will be perfectly fine. So I've always had that attitude of just move it on to the next person. But what's interesting, I was trying to get to, is Sheik is saying he's got a whole like sales desk, and he's got a team of qualifiers who qualify the leads before they hand them to a salesperson. So this is Sheik, who's got like 350 cars in stock. But say someone phones up and they're interested in something, they'll go through and make sure, like, oh, okay, what, you know, how are you planning on funding the car? And they'll either say, we've got the money, or we've got finance lined up, or we'd like you to do us finance a quote. Or they say, well, we're just kind of doing some research at the minute, or whatever. Well, the ones who are like, yeah, we got cash, or we've got finance lined up, or we want you to do a finance quote for us if you can. Well, then the qualifiers will do the finance quote and give it to them. And if they're like, yeah, that sounds good, then they'll give it to a salesperson, and then they'll get on with the deal. So they are filtering out the time-wasting twats and the shoppers. Do you know what I mean? So whereas customers are coming around with their bit of paper and they've done their MOT and they've done their history, you need to qualify customers as well, which is, I guess, what I'm doing. When someone's like, oh, right, well, what's all this MOT about? What's that about? Why isn't there 2 keys? Who do you think's got the key? What can you tell me about the previous owner? Who were they and where did they live? And, you know, why did they buy the car? Why did they sell it? I'm like, twat. Twat. Just fuck off.
I got to be honest with you, I haven't had any of that.
Really?
No,
Might
not
be the cars you're dealing with. I mean, interesting. This guy was driving a easy 25, 30 grand motorhome. This guy was that came to look at this just then, and he was putting apart his 2.5 grand IGA. But it might be the cars you're doing. It might be the area you're in. It might be because you haven't done enough volume yet to experience the joys of this.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But I mean, all I can say is that there's probably in the last 9 months, maybe 2 cars that have had more than 1 viewing. But I generally have great people come along and they say, I love the car. Oh yeah, it's prepped really nicely. And, you know, Michelle talks to them and tells them all about the RAC warranty and what we've done to the car and everything else. We're quite transparent with stuff. And it's gone.
We were talking to, what was the chap from the Car Dealer Awards that is doing that experiment being a car dealer, we had on a little while ago?
James Baggett.
That's it, yeah. He was saying the same thing, and I was saying a similar thing as well. When my volume was low, my close rate was really high, really high. I mean, it's still high now, but I would say it was like almost 100%. And I didn't have a lot of that. And I do think it is a volume thing. I think once the volumes start going up, obviously there's just more odds of you run into that kind of thing. But if you've got, say, 8 or 10 cars, like you say, that you've had the time to prep 100% bang on, and that, you know, they really are ready to go, and just I think you don't tend to experience it so much. I think it does get harder once the volumes start to go up, and I guess once you start to hand things over to other people to do as well.
I was meaning it. I was meaning it more about I don't get the time wasters with the bits of paper looking at MOT histories. You know, we MOT everything. They're told that, and so yeah. All right, the cars can help by being prepped nicely, but I'm just not getting that time waster element of people messing us around and coming with bits of paper.
I guess you're on a trading estate of sorts, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, and James is as well, but he's got a bit more of an online presence, I guess, and people are likely to and known locally for those sorts of cars. Whereas, of course, we got the forecourt, so you can
You
spot
got the
people who are
walk-ons. Yeah,
just out on a jolly, and literally they come out on the weekend. They're like, "Oh, we've come out to take
yeah.
this Father's Day. We take Dad out looking at cars. We've got no intention of buying one whatsoever, but we just let him imagine that he'd be allowed to buy one, sort of thing." And yeah, my patience levels for knowing how hard we work, how busy we are. When people come on and they just want to ask a load of questions, and you're like, "Oh, you're looking at buying one?" "Oh no, I just walking by and thought it looks really smart." I was like, "Well, why the fuck are you asking me about the service history? What relevance has that got to anything?" I know I'm coming across as properly, but I'm like quite annoyed, you know. Like, and is there any chance we could do a test drive? It's like, you've just told me you don't want to fucking buy it.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
the worst. That is
I
the
know
worst. Test drives.
in
Yeah.
reality we should be like, oh well, everyone's a potential customer and we should be thinking about the future value of this customer. They'll come back, and there is, don't get me wrong, there is an element of that. So if everything's gravy, then you know, and it's really quiet and whatever, then of course I'm more than happy to do that with people. But you do feel like when you're really busy and someone's just like, I just love to have a little test drive in one. And you're just like,
Do you think? Do you think also? Because I know in other industries I've been in, when they went online, so now obviously you can get a car delivered to you. Do you think there's an element of people going, well, I really want the blue one in Nottingham, but my local guy's got a red one of the same model. So if I go and test drive that, I'll know what that one's going to be like, and then they can go and order it up in the confidence it does what they want it to do.
yeah, I'm certain there's definitely more of that. I wouldn't say I get loads of that, but then how do we know how many of them who are coming to just test drive a car and then don't go through are doing that sort of thing? But yeah, we have had it. We've had people say that. You know, we're looking at several, and yeah, people. I don't understand how people. Maybe they feel like we should be really grateful for the opportunity to. I mean, we should be. In a strict salesperson would say it's an opportunity. Someone comes and sits in your car and you're getting a chance to talk to them. That's a great opportunity. But in my mind, if they're like, well, we're looking at this whatever, but it's 4 hours away, and you know, we did see this one, but it hasn't got most of the stuff we want. But you know, maybe, but we thought we'd have a test drive and see. But you know, otherwise we got, like you say, drive 5 hours to Newcastle for the one that you know she was really interested in, and you're like, right, cool, you know,
It's an opportunity, but I don't really want to sell my cars, if that makes sense. I don't want to have to
yeah, do the
sell
hard
it.
push.
It's, if you've already decided that's a Toyota Aygo's for you and mine's got the right mileage on and it's a fair price, you're coming along to check that the bodywork's okay and the interior is okay and it does drive okay. And if you're happy with that, you'll buy the car. I'm not here to say to you, well, I know you really like the red one, but look, this white is actually really, really good. And I know you like the one up the road with less miles, but look, mine's got a sat nav on it. I've done that whole bit of my life selling stuff to people. I don't want to sell anything to
And then
anyone
let them
anymore.
regret it a week later and decide, no, I really did want the other one, and then bring it back and cause you an even
Yeah,
bigger
and then
headache.
because a nail goes in their tire, it's like, consumer rights. I'd like to reject it now because I can just go out and get that one I really wanted up the road now. I think there is. Yeah, like I said, I don't really want to be pushing anybody into anything at all. Like I just said with that guy, I said it's not a problem, not a problem. You go off, have a think about it. If you do decide you want it, ring me up. It's a deposit to hold the vehicle. If not, no harm, no foul. They always go. They always sell.
So there's a couple of things there that I would say about that is that I don't understand the principle of test drives until you've concluded a deal. So I very often tell my customers, you're not test driving it until we've confirmed that there's a deal happening here and that you're committed to this car, because equally, who's going to replace the fuel, who's going to bring it back and clean it again because it's raining and now it looks like crap on the forecourt and all the rest of it. And I think that mindset comes from when I was running the finance company, is that we were doing 150 cars a month, and those cars were never seen by anyone until the day that they got delivered to their door. And the rejection rate, bearing in mind I started there in 2010, so maybe things were a little bit calmer than what they are these days, but you know, in a year of selling 150 cars a month, we'd maybe have 4 back.
It's a good point. It is a good point. No, I mean, I had someone come by and look at. He came by randomly with his son yesterday and said he wanted a small car for him. I walked him through the yard and we found a little Mazda 2. He said, "Hey, I like the Mazda 2. It's a nice little car. That'd be perfect for him." And he said, "Can we have a test drive?" So we went for a test drive, and he came back and went, "Yeah, well, I'll have a little think on that." And then he turned up like 2 hours later, and he said, "Yeah, we're thinking, how quickly could that be ready?" And I'm like, "Well, he needs to get a new MOT, so probably, to be honest, might be in the middle of next week." He said, "Well, Friday." He said, "Friday I'm back from being away, so that would work. We could pick it up then." I'm like, "Right, okay." So we're going ahead and doing the deal, and I said, "Well, it's £100 deposit, and then pay the balance when you come and pick up the car after the MOT." Yeah, we'll go away and have a think about that. I'm like, "Well, what are you going away to think about? You looked round it, you test drove it, you went away, you thought about it, and decided that probably was the car for you. You said you were going to go and look at other cars locally, and you came back 2 hours later. Surely that's a done deal, isn't it? Unless the £100 deposit puts you off. I don't know.
It's the commitment. It's the commitment, isn't it? If they feel like, if they say, "Oh yeah, well, if you get it ready, then we'll come back next Friday and whatever." Them saying we'll come back next Friday isn't a commitment to actually buy it from them, is it? They
No,
feel like, oh, they'll phone up and say, "Oh, we're not coming down now." But yeah, if you've taken the money, they're like, "Oh, actually, I am committing to a deal here."
We don't
yeah,
do
we're not
deposit.
we're not going to get it ready on the off chance. You don't do deposit, no?
Don't do deposits. I refuse to take a deposit. The amount of hassle that used to cause at my previous place with having to refund deposits and stuff like that. There is no security in having a deposit. I don't really understand it, if I'm honest. Why, as a car dealer, you would want to take a deposit to take a car off sale that somebody could ask you to keep for 10 days, that then you end up refunding their deposit because they've changed their mind. So we've got a very simple process.
I agree with you on that, yeah.
They come in, if they want the car, they're in the nicest possible way told that we're going to send you an invoice this afternoon because you've committed to buying the car. And until such point that invoice is paid, whether you're picking it up tomorrow or whether you're picking it up in a week's time when you're back for the weekend, it is on sale until that invoice is paid, and that's how it works.
Yeah, I can see your point now. I mean, my deposit is non-refundable if you've viewed the car and committed to having it. So that £100, if that guy put it down, I wouldn't refund it. I explained that because I'm going to bump that car in front of another car to get the MOT done when I had another car ready to go. I've got it getting it ready specifically for you, and now it might be another week or so before it sells to somebody else. But I agree with you. The idea of putting a deposit down on a car and taking it off sale is a pain because people do bail quite a lot, don't they? And and you could have someone walk on the forecourt the following minute that wants to buy it straight away. I struggle with the whole one of someone's coming down to see a car, but they've not put a deposit down. So like, I want to come and see the car on Thursday, and I'll say to them until Thursday it is still for sale. But if they say they're coming at 12 o'clock on Thursday, I will say, right, okay, so from Thursday morning, I won't sell it to anybody else up to 12 o'clock for you to come and do the viewing, but if you don't turn up, then it's for sale. And that can be frustrating if someone then walks up on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock and they're coming at 1 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock they're ready to buy it. They're like, yeah, I will buy it right now. And then you get that call at 12 o'clock. So, well, actually, something's coming up. It's always something with the family, isn't it? Something's come up with the family. I'm not going to be able to make it down today. And then it's bull because they don't want to rebook to come down. So I can kind of see your point where you go with that.
Well, ironically, with the guy with our Tesla guy with the part exchange, is that started off by all of the message exchanges where I've got cash ready, I'm ready to do the deal and everything else, and then it was, oh, actually, I'd like to come and see it next week. And I said, but hang on a second, the deal that we just agreed was based on that we're going to move fast and get it done and get it down to you. And then he wanted it delivered, so he didn't want to pay for it initially until it was going to be delivered. So at which point I just said to him, you pay for it, I'll invoice you today, you pay for it, I'll make arrangements to deliver it on Sunday. And that was it. And he did. So, but he went from not wanting to pay for it because he hadn't seen it to realizing that I wasn't going to do it any other way. And that was it.
It is a shit or get off the pot, isn't it? Really, that's the way it should be. It's shit or get off the pot. If you want the car, you've got to put the money down in full for it, and it's your car.
Yeah, I actually really like that, Jamie, and I'm tempted to sort of consider trying that because the amount of time, like cash flow, can be a nightmare for us.
Yeah.
100 grand there waiting to come in with cars that are waiting to go out. Our prep is going to help with that because then it can be like, well, the car's ready to go now, so we'd like to be paid for it now. But yeah, that saying like we don't take deposits, we can invoice you for it, and as soon as you've paid it, it's yours. But until then, that actually is one of those opportunities where, as a car dealer, the amount of times buyers have got us over a barrel in a sense. The more and more things I want to take control and be like, you want this car, we've agreed a deal that you're happy with, we'd like the money, because that helps our business and our cash flow, and the car's pretty much ready for you to go. You're emotionally committed to this now, but if you don't actually pay up, then someone else can have it. I bet you it must be quite a good motivator, really.
I was just going to say, it just makes it easy to know what's going on. You know whether a car's sold, you know whether it's not sold. If not, move on and sell it to somebody else. But it did annoy me with that one that we were just talking about, because like I said to you when I came down to you, is that I did all of that, had all of the hassle with the part exchange and having to sort things out with you and whatever else, and I could have sold that car another 6 times in between taking his money and delivering it down to him on the Sunday. So you just live and learn, don't you?
I think it probably, as well, psychologically, if you are doing that, sets a stall out from the beginning that you're not sort of this subservient person that desperately needs your business. It's like, if you want my car, you'll pay me in full, and that probably sets the tone going forwards as well. Like you said, Joe, I think so. If you've got a deposit and then they've got to pay for it when they pick it up, and they can still niggle you about little things then, and still try and chip you. Yeah, I think it's probably a better, because I think there is always this mindset with the public as well that you desperately need this sale as well. You desperately need this car. I think there's nothing wrong with sort of setting a tone from the beginning that I'm in control of this process.
Yes, it's interesting actually thinking back to Jamie Capel again, who we were talking with on Tuesday or whenever it was. I remember one point he was saying how great COVID had been for business and whatever, but again, because it gave the dealer some sort of control, and you would set out like, this is how it's going to work. You will pay us for the car, then you can arrange a click and collect appointment, and we'll have everything there ready for you and your whatever. And people seem to love it because it was all just set out for them. And I do feel like the more it gets maybe quieter or whatever, the more dealers maybe should try and take back some kind of control of like, yeah, you will have to pay for the car in advance, and this is your collection day. We'll try and work with you or whatever, but if it's going to be over a week, then we won't. Or if someone's being really fussy and I'd like money off, and you say, well, we don't do money off, or any of these things where you might turn away a customer, like really pre-qualify them, then it's scary because you think, oh, I want to do anything to make a deal. But on the other hand, I think at short term, it'll maybe not help you. But I think there's loads of things for me where I'd like to be like, yeah, we need payment in advance. So if you want us to hold the car for 2 weeks, only if you pay us first, then we can kind of store the car for you. But I'm not holding it on my pocket for two weeks. If someone wants something done and it's just not feasible, rather than going halves, just saying sorry, we won't, and then just sell it to someone else, you might lose out on some. But I think in the end, you will build a business that gives you less stress, less warranty buggery, and you'll feel happier about it. You'll feel less resentful. And I think in the end, it will probably help the business. People will like that you're confident enough to say, right, this is how the process works. When you come to CG car sales, check out the car. Let's talk figures. As long as you're happy with the test drive, we'll come back in. We'll do it all. You can either take it away today because we've prepped in advance, or if you don't, we can give you up to 5 days to arrange collection or pay for us to do a delivery. We can get that invoice in front of you right now. As soon as you paid it, it's your car. But otherwise, it's still up for sale because we're so busy. People calling all the time. You set the tone. You set the rule. And I think that's how it should be.
It was like that message you sent us yesterday in the group chat, Jamie Joe sent us a message. One of his, am I allowed to say talk about this? His valeter was trying to make a claim off a dealer for a car, an Audi he'd had for a few months, and ragged the living daylights out because Joe's seen videos of him doing 140 mile an hour down the autobahn for a few months in it. Trying to say to the dealer, trying to make a claim for the dealer for the timing chain because he thought it was making a bit of a noise, and Audi thought it might be on its way out. But he couldn't quite get a recording where it sounded loud enough. And the response from the dealer was fantastic. And we all said we were going to grab it. And it was basically saying, just to sort of, and it was exactly what you're saying, Joe, there, taking control of the process from the beginning, going, okay, we're more than happy to look at your car, or I'll have a garage look at your car. But what we need to make you aware of straight away is the warranty is designed to cover failed components, not the diagnosis of non-failed components.
Preventing future problems.
Future problems, that's it, future problems. So basically what they're saying is that, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, if your timing chain goes bad, your warranty will cover it. But if you want to just keep sticking it in for diagnosis with garages that say it might be on its way out, then you're going to have to pick up the bill for those diagnoses because they're not an actual warranty claim. And there's just no way that lad can go anywhere now with that without knowing the score that he's going to be picking up the bill on constantly getting this car, because I've had it before where people just stick them in to moors down the road because they think they can hear a squeak or a rattle or have something to look at, and before you know it, you've got a bill for £45 because they've had a look at something that turned out to be fine. So yeah, I just like the way that was really good. I think we're all going to rob that, aren't we? So put that into our T's and C's.
Yeah, setting expectations again, you know, because again, me and James both guilty. Maybe James even more so of when they come back for something under, and you're just like, oh, I want the customer to be happy and whatever. I don't want them to feel like I'm not interested in their problem or whatever. So James will do loads of stuff that the rest of us are like, what? You did that after? The fear is that they're going to slag you off, leave you a bad review, which you can reply to sensibly and explain the situation. And if it puts someone off because of your sensible reply, then probably best not selling a car to them anyway, so nothing lost.
Yeah.
And if they decide they're going to take you to court or whatever, they're probably not going to go, because if we're not helping them out, it's probably minor enough that going to court's going to cost them more anyway, and they'll probably just come to their senses and they'll calm down and realise, you know, fair enough. I would have loved someone else to pay for my problems and maintain my car, but it's not worth going to court. I probably won't win. Or if they do, then so be it, and you use your logistics that you're paying for, then you fight them and accept that that's part of being a car dealer. And sometimes doing the right thing doesn't mean that you're not going to end up in court having to argue that you are doing the right thing. And again, the more we do that, the more I think everyone does actually get a fair deal. And you can stick to a set of rules then, can't you? Do you know what I mean? It's easier to stick to a set of rules if you actually stick to the set of rules, rather than being like, well, this might be covered. It's not really covered, but I feel guilty, so I help you out. Whereas if you're just like, that's it, you know, sorry if you're upset, but, you know, we'll see you in court. It's business, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm moving more towards that. I have to say, I'm moving more towards that now because it's just not financially viable, especially the age of vehicles I'm doing, just to hold myself accountable for any and every fault up to 6 months. It's just, you know, it is what it is. Like you're saying, maybe you'll get a bad review every now and then, maybe you'll get someone that feels a little hard done by, but at the end of the day, you've got to still pay your bills and have a business in however many months' time, haven't you?
Can you imagine how much it would, the cost would be to like every person you bumped into in the street? If you're like, I want some monetary value that would make you happy, and they're like, oh, 500 quid in my pocket right now would be great. As a car dealer, if you're selling cars to people and you want everyone to go away, and it's mad to think that everyone is going to be 100% happy, because it just comes out, you're just paying people to be happy. And do you know what I mean? Like if someone's like, oh, I really wish that my dealer would cover this after 9 months. If you're like, oh yeah, I will, you just want paying people to kind of like you. Whereas now I'm just like, fuck off. You know,
it is that difference that we just can't seem to get clarified clearly in law between selling a car that had a fault existing on it and maintaining a car. You know, normal maintenance of a vehicle. It's just we that would really help with clarification. It really would help with clarification. I probably am going to have to run now, guys, because I can hear Pete next door and it's doing my head in because he's 4 hours into a lower arm on a Hyundai i30, and I know he's probably trying to file off a bolt by a millimetre at a time, try it, then file a millimetre, then try it, file a millimetre. So I need to go in with a grinder and a ruddy great hammer and say, Pete, I cannot have 5 hours into a lower arm on a £2,000 car.
Fair enough. No worries. Yeah, we'll be going for a little while anyway. And to be fair, James, me and you have just waffled, and we haven't really given Jamie much of an opportunity to chat. But
No, I'm all right. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. It's interesting.
it was really good having you on, though, Jamie. And yeah, I feel like probably I've got more to think on from this than you have from us. But
Well, I'm not with you in terms of numbers yet, and I understand that. But, I am 20 years plus in this trade, and I did used to supply 150 cars a month. So I've got a massive understanding of how everything works. It's just that now I need to transition my business into full flow into the car sales, and then hopefully I'll be chasing up behind you, and who knows, I might get to 30, 40, 50 cars again. But all it takes is hard work and dedication, and that's what we're all about. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And this for me is about networking and not feeling probably quite so alone. If there's some other people out there that you can message or talk to, to alleviate fears or worries. So thank you again.
No, thank you, mate. I mean, I've taken away. I like what you've carried over from the bigger business. Even though you're dealing in the smaller volumes of the car, some of that stuff you said about, I'm going to take away about the set deposits on cars, that kind of thing. I like that, and that's the benefit of these podcasts is, like I say, sharing these ideas, because it doesn't matter how big you are, how long you've been doing it. There's always a little angle that you haven't really quite thought of that somebody else is on it with.
yeah, good point. Actually, my chap who's going to do some driving should have turned up. So yes. Brilliant. We'll get you. We've got a group chat going for Dealerchat members, so we'll get you in there as well, Jamie. And
Thank you very much.
yeah, we'll all keep in touch. Tell us, actually, are you on Instagram, TikTok, and all that sort of stuff? Not TikTok necessarily, but Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. Where can everyone find you?
Instagram is TVS_UK. Obviously, the website's there, and the Facebook page is the same, TVS_UK. So yeah, if you want to follow, we put some decent reels on now. We've started using a bit of AI technology to do voiceovers and stuff on our reels. Just want to try and shake things up a little bit, really, and try and, even if I am portraying that we're bigger and better than we are, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, it was all good stuff, actually. Yeah, so I'll put all that in the description, show notes, whatever, and yeah, we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Apologies again to everyone for my distracted in and outs today as well.
We're all used to it by now. Go and have play in your sheds.